For context, my name is McKenna Dunbar, and I serve as the principal of the Grid Foundry, a firm advancing pragmatic energy and infrastructure solutions across public and private sectors. Our work focuses on rising energy demand, digital infrastructure development, and strategic energy planning at large. And we help partners translate complex technical systems and data into actionable actionable pathways and those built on resilience and decarbonization and reliability. And so essentially, this ultimately, our mission is simple to shape energy and infrastructure systems that are future ready and data informed. And that is why, that is what brings us to our discussion today and why we are here today. The work happening across Virginia's universities mirror the same type of systems thinking that we all value in the energy efficiency sector, turning ambitious energy and climate goals into practical action, one building and one campus, or in this case, three campuses at a time. And we're in a moment really where energy systems are both being reshaped by technology and the urgent realities of rising energy demand and temperatures around us. And that's what makes the role of institutions like the ones represented here today more important than ever. And as we know, colleges and universities are not only large-scale energy users, but they are also, as we will hear, living laboratories for innovation and accountability. And these are places where ideas are tested and where these lessons of sustainability move from theory to practice and are also scalable for those around other entities around the country. And we will be hearing about the outcomes that will and have inspired change well beyond campus. And across Virginia, like I've said, we've seen this shift take hold, and institutions are moving from isolated efficiency upgrades to comprehensive strategies um, that connect facilities management and research and really, most importantly, for many people, student engagement under one shared vision. And again, the universities represented today are setting a new standard for how energy efficiency is approached. And we're joined by three leaders who are driving this transformation and really redefining what it means for higher education to lead in both sustainability and energy. So I will share the bios in a moment. First, we'll hear from Jesse Warren, the Associate Director of Sustainability in the Office for Sustainability at the University of Richmond. And Jesse is responsible for the university's electric demand response and sustainable building program. He leads the building efficiency program and a team of energy engineers who identify and implement energy efficiency and retro commissioning projects across the grounds. Previously, Jesse worked as a consultant doing energy conservation, HVAC design, energy modeling, and lead project coordination. And he has a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Virginia Tech and is a licensed mechanical engineer in the state of Virginia and is a proud father of three. And my favorite portion of his bio is a rain or shine two-wheeled commuter. Next, we'll be joined by Nguyen, who is a board member at Virginia Energy Efficiency Council and is the Assistant Vice President for Energy and Utilities at Virginia Tech. Nguyen leads the Division of Campus Planning, Infrastructure, and Facilities in the production, delivery, and management of the university's supply side utilities, as well as the demand side campus energy consumption for energy efficiency, energy conservation, and sustainability. Nguyen also oversees the utility managers and the daily operations and employee management to ensure that all service delivery areas are continuously improved, and is also responsible for the strategic development of the utilities master plan and for building effective formal and informal communication channels with customers and other university departments. And finally, we will be hearing from Greg Farley, the director of university sustainability at George Mason University. Farley has held similar positions at Washington College and Chesapeake College, where he was an award-winning instructor and director of the Chesapeake College Center for Leadership and Environmental Education. And his career in sustainability began as a visiting scholar at the Sustainable Living Institute of Maui, part of the University of Hawaii Maui College, where he also co-edited a book, Thinking Like an Island, with slim director Jennifer Chirico. And very interesting fact, he is a biologist by training and holds degrees from Duke University and Florida State University. So with that, I would like to pass the flag to our first panelist, and I will let Jesse begin.
Thank you, McKenna. I hope everybody can hear me okay. I want to talk a little bit about energy efficiency at the University of Virginia today. First, I wanted to start with a slide that shows our team. We're lucky to have a group of professionals whose job is to retrofit existing buildings in order to save energy here at UVA. I won't name them all, just say they're all great. So can I get the next slide, please? So the longest running program we have is called our Building Efficiency Program. It was previously nicknamed Delta Force. We rebranded it a few years ago, but it's been going on as an internal green revolving fund since about 2008. It started with a $500,000 seed from the university that results now in $3 to $5 million a year of energy investments. Now, these investments are pretty straightforward. We take existing buildings, we retro commission them, we put new light fixtures in them, make sure the controls are working correctly, occasional controls upgrades, and then we recover our initial investment through energy savings. We hold the customer's utility bill constant until we can collect our money back, and then we move on to the next building. Typically, we've got between 5 and 10 buildings in process at any given time, and this is how we're retrofitting our existing academic buildings. Next slide, please. Now, sustainable labs is the flavor of this that it takes in our laboratories. So the laboratories are our biggest energy user at UVA on a per building basis. The hospital is the biggest, but it's a really big building. It's like 1 million square feet. But we have a lot of labs. And so the way we think about our labs is with this top-down, bottom-up approach. Smart labs is what we call our risk management, airflow management strategy. You can certainly Google it and learn more about it. Many other universities are doing it. And Green Labs is really our grassroots efforts. A researcher wants to get involved, doesn't know what to do. They engage with us. They get their laboratory certified as a green lab, and we work with them from there. We've got about 40 to 50 certified green labs at UVA where the principal investigator is signed on to these sustainable principles. Together, those are sustainable labs. So when you have your top-down facility approach and your bottom-up grassroots approach together, you end up with our sustainable labs program. Again, the hallmark of this is lab ventilation risk assessments on a building-by-building basis, which identify opportunities to right-size airflow to building risk. Next slide, please. And then for new construction, we've launched a set of green building standards. Now, these green building standards are in their second or third revision, but they apply to all projects, capital and small. Small projects have a list of prescriptive requirements they're asked to meet, like only use LED lights, for example. But today I want to talk a little bit about the capital improvements. Our capital projects go through a LEED certification process, and through LEED certification, we get an energy model. Now, as many people know, the energy model is based on a percentage reduction against a baseline. That's useful, but we're asking for something different. We're asking for them to model and predict as best they can the actual energy use of the building. We've learned that adding to a baseline can be challenging because as you add features, you add square footage, you add windows, for example, the model compensates for that. Our task is to reduce energy. So we're asking our buildings to operate in the top 25th percentile, top quarter of our buildings here at UVA. And that results in the energy use requirement table you see below. So for an academic building, we're looking for something like 47 kBTUs per square foot per year. Multi-use, which is pretty much a catch-all category, is 51. And then it goes up as you get into research, inpatient, and outpatient space. The goal here is to minimize life cycle costs to the university while providing both financial and environmental stewardship. Next slide, please. But my favorite thing is really talking about how we engage with the young people at the university and how we can directly support climate action through their efforts. So the biggest program there is known as our Decarbonization Academy. The Decarbonization Academy is a group of paid students who form groups and work with professors and staff mentors to identify projects that save energy and directly improve climate action on grounds. Now, we have a lot of flexibility in the kinds of shapes these projects can take. Some of them are tree planting projects where we're studying the impacts of microforests and other things that we can do on our facilities. Others are directly involved in solar siting or the opportunity to reduce the energy consumed by district utilities. That's energy consumed at the building and energy consumed at the plant, because if we can reduce energy use at the plant while still sending the same amount of energy to the buildings, we've achieved sort of a double win. Through this program, we've done it through 4 semesters. We've engaged with about 67 students and 20 plus faculty and staff mentors doing 26 projects that directly affect climate action at UVA. And so that's the end of my overview, McKenna.
Thank you so much. I am very fascinated by the Decarbonization Academy when looking at your slides previously, and we'll definitely be reaching out. And now we have our next panelist.
Good afternoon. Thank you, McKenna. I feel very honored to be on this panel speaking with my colleagues, Jesse and Greg. I've known both of these guys and admire their work. It hates me to say it, but especially on this recorded session, but we do admire a lot of things that UVA is trying to accomplish as well as George Mason. So I have visited UVA and I'm trying to get myself up to George Mason as well because I hear a lot of good things going on there. Next slide, McKenna. For us, the way I think about it, we have an ideal environment for research and innovation and opportunity for experiential learning. Our campus represents a variety of building types. We have, academic buildings, administration building, residential housing, dining facilities, athletics, and even 2 data centers. So it provides us with a whole host of different building use types, and for us to have information and to study and to make improvements. And so being from the Division of Facilities, we do collaborate very closely with our academic side, both the faculties and the student bodies, and get their assistance in some of the challenges that we face and provide them with some of the real world energy challenges that they can apply to their studies as well. Next slide. So as you can see, so not only on the demand side, we have real world platforms, but on the supply side, we also have real world utility grade systems as well. We actually run the Virginia Tech Electric Service. We actually own and operate 4 substations that deliver 12.5 kV throughout not only the campus, but the town of Blacksburg. So we actually serve the residents and commercial retail customers in the town of Blacksburg. We have a cogen steam plant that provides heating to campus and chill water system that cools the majority of the campus through a central loop. And what this allows us to do is to, again, engage with our academic side, the university, whereas we provide them with real world data, a real world platform of performance and challenges. And they also assist us with the new methods and technologies and applications that they are running and help us solve problems that way. So it's a very collaborative process. And so I would say it's beneficial for the engagement for all parties involved. And like UVA, we have something we call Sustainable Impact Academy. We're fairly integrated into some of the living labs that the engineering and other types of classes that they offer. We often do speaking engagement and provide tours through all of our sites. And again, providing internships at all levels. Um, so not only at the utility side or the building side, but throughout the process, because we have students that are engaged with us in the campus architectural and master planning process. We have interns and faculties that are involved in the design and construction stages, understanding the standards, building codes. So throughout the entire process, as our campus grow and our campus evolve, we engage with our stakeholders and benefit from that process. Next slide. We also have a program that's specifically geared towards the students, and this is what we call the Green RFP. It's been running for over a decade now, and it's an opportunity for students to submit proposals that are either energy efficient or energy conservation or sustainable or clean energy. And it allows them to go through the whole process of gathering data, doing data analytics, doing cost benefit analysis, doing a natural pro forma, present their proposals, work with our subject matter experts and really trying to hone and fine tune their proposal, and then present it. And if their project has value, we actually approve the project and submit it to our central finance group and have it funded. So it's a project that really get at student engagement, and it has the benefit of involving students and their creativity and their innovation and really stir their imagination. So it's just like in real life, to be honest with you, a lot of them don't make the grades, but many do. And that does get the students excited. And sometimes they work as individuals, and sometimes we get team submission. So we see a lot of excitement in this area. Next slide. In terms of our own energy efficiency program, we do have specific funding in our facilities group. We call the Energy Action Plan. That's actually specifically for energy efficiency and energy conservation and clean energy. We've converted, by the end of the year, we'll have roughly 50% of our campus converted to LED. And that might not seem a lot, but our campus is 12 million square foot. So that's roughly 6 million square foot of area that we've converted. We continue to do other efficiency efforts with the steam trap. And like Jesse, we have a lot of laboratories that present both a efficiency challenge as well as a safety challenge to have that tuned correctly. And then finally, we're actually going through a process with an ESCO for a energy savings performance contracting that potentially could be in the $50 to $60 million range for really a wholesale transformational upgrade of a lot of the mechanical services that we have on campus. Next slide. And then lastly, this is a building that was just completed up in Alexandria, Arlington. This is the 11-story, what we call the academic building 1. This was part of the investment made by both the Commonwealth of Virginia as well as the university to attract Amazon HQ back in, I think it was 2018 timeframe. And what it does is it, again, provides experiential learning. It houses the graduate programs for computer science, computer engineering, supporting cutting edge research in artificial intelligence, machine language, quantum information science, intelligent interfaces, and next-gen wireless technology. But as you can see, it incorporates many of the energy efficiency and upgrades into the building, including a very innovative building integration of solar PV. And the building is designed to have the many facets that it does to be able to maximize the sun exposure throughout the day. We've applied many of these upgraded energy efficiency efforts throughout all the buildings we build now here on campus in Blacksburg as well. And all our buildings are built to LEED Silver standard. But in this particular instance, in Alexandria, we're able to apply this innovative solar PV technology just because it's a one-off building. If we were to do it here, it would kind of clash with our collegiate Gothic look. But this was a great opportunity for us to try something new and different. And so with that, I will close and send it back to you, McKenna.
Thank you so much. What stood out most to me was honestly the green RFP program, having a space for students where they can turn in their creative ideas into something that's real and something that's funded. I think that's a brilliant framework for teaching applied projects in collaboration with campus experts, and we would love to see that in more universities across the state and for the country as well. So with that, we will be hearing from Greg Farley at George Mason University, our last panelist.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you to the VAEEC for having me in this afternoon. It's always a pleasure to get on the same stage with Jesse and Nam, although y'all are a tough act to follow. So I will do my best from here in the National Capital Region. So I just wanted to start because everybody knows UVA and everybody knows Virginia Tech, and then people hear about George Mason, they're like, I haven't heard of that. So I thought we'd start with just some sort of basics. We are the largest public research university in the Virginia system, at least by headcount. We have about 40,000 students this year. There's another 5,000 or 6,000 faculty and staff. And so you're looking at a total community size of just under 50,000 people. And that's spread across about 9 million square feet, give or take a little bit. Next slide, please. Those 9 million square feet are distributed across 3 campuses here in Northern Virginia. One in Arlington on the right-hand side of your screen. That's sort of the closest one to the district. One in Fairfax, which is the majority of that space and the majority of those people. And then our science and technology campus out in Manassas on the left-hand side of your screen here. So I want to spend a little time today talking about projects across all 3 of these campuses, but particular emphasis on one in Arlington and one sort of potential exciting one in Manassas. So next slide, please. It was not too long after the Amazon HQ2 announcement when we got wind here at Mason that Nam was building a building in Northern Virginia, and that Jesse was building a building here in Northern Virginia. Everybody wanted a piece of the Amazon action. So we did the same, and we already have an existing campus, which gave us, I think, a little bit of an edge. Next slide, please. We took a look at our Arlington campus, which has now been rechristened our Mason Square campus, and that's been home traditionally to our law school and our public policy school. And we decided that this would make a great home for our Institute for Digital Innovation. So we took down, demolished an existing converted 1950s department store that we had been using maybe as sort of classrooms from time to time, but really was just sort of taking up space. And I had the good fortune to be part of the design team for what turned into 350,000 square feet of LEED Platinum building. I'm really, really excited about this. It's an all-electric building. It's the first one in Mason's profile. And the little asterisk there is that there is a restaurant tenant on the first floor. That I think one of the great challenges to decarbonization is going to be convincing chefs that induction cook stoves work. So we did have to put a gas line in for the restaurant kitchen. But otherwise, it is an all-electric building, and this is a first for us. So we're watching this super, super carefully. We also, in a real effort to make sure that our use of the building was equitable among all partners, we actually hit the advanced metering credit in the LEED check sheet for this. And the reason for that is the building is a public-private partnership. And the idea is that we built space in it, and about 60% of that space is leased to George Mason University and our Institute for Digital Innovation, and these are some of our high-tech students. We want to bring in the local high-tech industry, give them a space in the building, and then sort of let our students interact with their researchers and their designers and their engineers to try and build like a real partnership and a real community of high-tech learning in here. So in order to do that, in order to lease the space and make sure we were billing properly for energy and electricity, we worked really hard to make sure we got the metering scheme in this building just right. So super proud of us for that. This building, like Nam's building, has a vertical facade solar presence. This is George Mason University's first solar PV array. If I'm being completely honest, it provides very little of the actual electricity used by the building. It's probably roughly about the same amount that the common spaces in the building use, hallways and kitchens and things like that. And we looked very hard at the site, tried to find a way to do enough solar PV in Arlington City in order to get to actual net zero for the building. And it turned out we just don't have the rooftop area. So we are pursuing a strategy with renewable energy credits, and the building P3 partners are working with us on that. This is a net zero energy building, as we are purchasing entirely solar generated energy for to make it go. So we're really proud of this. It's already influencing how we think about buildings on our other campuses. I was in a design meeting earlier this week for a new building for our Costello College of Business. And it came up sort of organically. The design team asked, what should this building say to the Fairfax campus? And somebody in the room said, what it should say to the Fairfax campus is the same thing the Fuse says to the Arlington campus. And so I think we've really sort of been able to leverage this to catalyze higher performance buildings on other campuses as well. So next slide, please. So that's it. Fuse is about infrastructure. We are a research institution. And so one of the things I wanted to highlight for us today is our engagement with our own faculty on matters of energy and design. We have a very, very active living laboratory program on our campuses. It's a joint effort between my office, University Sustainability, and our Institute for a Sustainable Earth, which is a sort of research collector and organizer on campus. The ISE has about 500 affiliate faculty across a really wide range of disciplines. And their goal is to unite multidisciplinary research teams around core questions in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. In conversation with them, facilities and campus operations sort of put on the table that, hey, we have some energy planning needs coming up. And we could use some guidance from our own faculty about, what it is that we should be pursuing if we're going to pursue both really high return on investment and energy efficiency and decarbonization and utility bill management kind of all at the same time. And so what came out of that was a professor in our engineering school. It's our Department of Computer and Engineering, Electrical and Computer Engineering. And he specializes in Pareto optimal decision support modeling. So what you're looking at is a description of this green assessment and design guidance tool, which has as part of its core components, a really detailed understanding of our electricity bill and a very, very detailed understanding of all of our existing campus infrastructure, including which buildings are hooked to our district heating and cooling plant, which ones are standalone electric versus standalone natural gas, where are the energy users and the energy sources on our campus, what are the flows of energy between those buildings. And we asked the research team to sort of put together some recommendations for us based on that really sort of spatially explicit understanding. What's really interesting is that we asked the model to consider, should we investigate solar PV? Should we investigate battery storage? Should we emphasize energy efficiency measures? And we sort of ran this project alongside a larger project to develop an energy efficiency and resiliency plan for the institution. And what popped out really early on is that the model runs really encouraged us to dive into energy storage. So, and I'll explain why that is in a minute. So next slide, please. So this is sort of a pictorial description of what the model is considering. There's a lot of complexity in the code. We actually have to run this on a supercomputer cluster, and the team is sort of proud of the fact that they've crashed the clusters some number of times. But the idea is that it knows everything, right? And it has a very, very detailed understanding, in particular, all our contractual agreements for energy supply, and what those costs are that are associated with that and how we might best manage those costs. So what you see on the right-hand side here is a spatially explicit understanding of our buildings, and then a consideration for everything from carbon credits to renewable energy ventures to local generation. And then it also considers briefly what should we do for our fleet vehicles and things like that. Next slide, please. It turns out a really, really long and not very visually appealing table. But I sort of wanted to call your attention to the top line in gray is sort of, if you ask the model to just run business as usual and establish that as a baseline, what it's telling us is that over the next 30-year period, we're looking at about $133 million in capital investments. And that, really that's just business as usual. So it has no return on that investment. But as you start getting down into the blue, the yellow, the purple, and the green lines, these are where we ask the model to consider, what if we sought carbon neutrality by a particular date? How should we do that? And the columns labeled period 1, period 2, period 3, those are 5-year planning periods. And if you notice, if you look at the green 2040 line, it encourages us to dive in on sort of replacing a natural gas boiler that's going to fail, but there's a battery storage element there. The green 2040 enhanced, the yellow line, in the first 5-year period, it says you should invest in energy storage. And there are several scenarios that the model kicked out that said battery storage is probably a good idea at George Mason University. So we dove in on that and we sort of asked ourselves, why is that? It's because of the structure of our electricity bill. Our bill with Dominion Energy has a ratchet for demand that assesses us basically a tiered penalty for demand on 15-minute intervals over the previous 11 months. So any 15-minute cycle, when I have to start up a chiller or when demand gets really peaky, we pay for that for the next year. So battery management could help us compress that peak and could help save us an awful lot on our electricity bill. And you notice that even some of let's go green and get rid of our carbon footprint, those things have a return on investment that approaches market rate at about 3%. And if we just ask the model to optimize for return on investment, that's the sort of brown line, the third row. The far right-hand column is the number you're interested in there. the model can get us like an 8.2% return on the investments we make in energy, depending on what we ask it to do. So, and I would note that step one in that scenario is also battery storage. So we're really now thinking carefully about how to adopt some of these recommendations and what partners we need to bring in. What do we need to understand before we just sort of blindly follow the model down this road? Next slide, please. So I want to draw our attention and sort of close with the exciting ideas on our Manassas campus. Manassas is a fairly small campus for us. There's only 8 buildings. It is, however, on an EUI basis, probably our heaviest energy user on a per square foot basis. It is mostly laboratory buildings. Those laboratory buildings run the gamut from academic research to a level 3 bioretention lab to a research morgue that's associated with our body farm. And so the campus is, it's very small in terms of physical number of feet, but it's very energy intensive use. Next slide, please. One of the opportunities in front of us is that the campus, which is outlined here in the red and yellow oddball shape, right? And the small red and yellow box to the sort of right above the center of the slide is the level 3 biomedical research lab. The yellow boxes all the way around the campus are data centers. And those data centers consume an enormous amount of electricity and pass most of it right through as heat. And we have a couple of opportunities where we share property boundaries with data center neighbors. So one of the things that I'm exploring is, can we work with one of these partners to recapture waste heat and then move it across a property boundary? It's hard to see from this picture, but the uppermost 2 building yellow box just above the center of the slide, that data center is immediately next to the black rooftop. And is there one more slide? I think there is. Nope, there isn't. Please go back. So the building is immediately adjacent to a pool, which would be a great target for year-round heat offtake. And there's enough green space that we might consider drilling geothermal wells to store some of that heat in the summertime and then recapture it in the winter when we need it more. So, more news to come on this, but certainly this has the policymaking establishment in Northern Virginia, pretty exercised. And we've got a sort of a robust conversation going with one of these data centers that seems to do this sort of thing in Europe and is maybe eager to participate in, at the very least, a feasibility study as an early step to this partnership. So in the end, there are so many data centers in Northern Virginia that we don't have enough floor space. We don't have enough demand for all that heat. So a further step down the road would be to build a partnership with the university and commercial and industrial partners and think about a district heating system for this part of Manassas that would be heavily reliant on rescuing heat from data center waste. So I'll leave it there. I'm happy to answer questions, and I thank you all for bringing me to the table this afternoon and letting George Mason University be a part of this.
Thank you, Greg. I was struck with learning how George Mason's approach with the Gadget tool bridges the research and like the operations work in that way. And I also appreciated how you described the Fuse building as a catalyst for next generation of high performance design. And great to hear about your mention of the district heating system, like conceptions and possible plans, and thinking about how to leverage data centers and capture the heat from them to do good for the university and for the surrounding community. And I think in general, what comes through for us as the audience of the panel is how Virginia's college approach for energy is not just one that the utility manages, but as a system to understand. And I think each campus, Virginia Tech, University of Virginia, and George Mason University, really treats its operations as a living network. And that is something that we've all heard from your presentations today, where data and infrastructure and people power and just human behavior really inform one another in real time. And that's what we need more of in the Commonwealth. And that mindset turns efficiency from a series of isolated upgrades to more of a continuous process for refinement. And that's what I certainly heard today. And with that, I would like to go to questions. And I first would like to start with what makes a campus uniquely suited to test or scale energy efficiency projects. And if
I can take a shot at that. And like I said before, we offer, we do have a variety of building types on here that's really representative of, like a community, a town, really. We have athletics facilities, data centers, residential, commercial type buildings, even industrial. And even our power plants and chill water system use a tremendous amount of energy that is worthy of looking at where we can be more efficient from. And then just to have the faculties and students that is living in this community and experiencing these challenges with us and available to us to be able to bring some of their latest applications and technology that they're learning. I mean, I'm still using Excel, and a lot of these kids are using much, much more sophisticated. Now, I'm not even talking about AI stuff, but just the data analytics alone on managing a huge amount of data and turning that data to information and actionable decisions is, where we find the value of being engaging. And us being on the energy and utility side, we sometimes don't see some of the things you mentioned, McKenna, on the culture of how energy is being used on their side and their experiences as users. And, they have a lot of curiosity and wonder why certain things are the way they are. Whereas we're in a utility mindset and we're more focused on, delivery of safety, reliability, and things like that. So it's always good to get that perspective. So I'll yield the floor.
Yeah. I'll just say this, even among ourselves, there are, clear leaders and, sort of those of us who kind of need to see it in action first. And a tip of the hat to the UVA team. They are a model to the rest of us. They're significantly further down the road on some of their district heating questions. I should point out that like the let's recapture data center heat and put it in another building project is already being built at UVA. And we're watching very closely. So I think the ability to sort of be the first university or the first entity to do something, to model it, to let us see the facts and figures, how well does this work, right? I think that's a great place for universities to be in. We are, after all, research entities, and we're supposed to be pushing the boundaries of knowledge. And we shouldn't just do that in the research labs. We should do that in our operations.
Absolutely. And I think that you answered the next question I was going to ask, and both of you touched on it already, but you are talking about Virginia, like really seeing each unique university play a role as a test bed for emerging solutions, really. That's what you're mentioning. And in our society, and we live in the data center capital of the country, and when we in the world, but particularly within the Golden Crescent, and thinking about Central Virginia and our surrounding counties in the Golden Triangle being really focused on digital infrastructure and the emerging solutions relating to that. Do you see, just in general, data centers aside, do you see more avenues for formal collaboration between campuses or between public private partnerships as it relates to integrating distributed resources or storage or decarbonization with all of these shifts?
Well, I feel like it's my turn. So I don't know if I'll say we've done a couple of offsite utility projects, power purchase agreements with Dominion Energy, and those have been particularly successful for our carbon footprint. The next step for us in public-private partnerships is actually a P3 with our second-year housing contractor. So they are developing and building a series of second-year housing complexes that will be connected to our district energy. It'll be our opportunity to get our second-year students to live on grounds. Right now, we don't have enough housing for all of them, and someday it'll be mandatory for them, or at least that's the vision. Now, that's been a really interesting project for us because from a green building standpoint, we had reservations. We felt like we're ceding a lot of control to the developer. But at the same time, we have clear guidelines and clear, like I mentioned, green building standards. In practice, it's been a great project for us because they understood the requirements and they understand how to meet them. And so that's sort of the name of the game in the P3 model, in my opinion, is being able to outline your problem, outline your requirements, outline your various thresholds, and then the team knows where they stand and what to work with.
Great. Thank you for that response and that insight. And as we near the end of the panel, I have one final question for each of you. So when you look ahead to the future, what personally and institutionally excites you most about where your work is heading, where the work of your universities are heading?
I'll take a stab at that. For me, it's about not only meeting today's challenges, but preparing the next generation of uh, energy enthusiasts in our students. And that's why we have the Green RFP program to kind of get them engaged and understand what it takes and fall down their faces sometimes to know that it's not that easy. And that's why I mean all of us, all three of us, are engaged in preparing the workforce with our facilities up in Northern Virginia to prepare them for all the AI-driven data centers, right? It's machine learning, artificial intelligence, high technology, and we're also you mentioned the crescent. The proximity with a lot of the federal presence in Virginia. There's a lot of opportunities here for us to be engaged in, on the federal side, the high interest in not only sustainability but resiliency, and those types of works, require a new set of skill sets from the workforce to be able to be prepared to come out of schools and to hit the ground running. So those are my thoughts.
Absolutely.
If I could, I'd echo Nam and really think about where we were 20, 30 years ago on campus. Many people in my office had to start their own campus sustainability programs in order for there to be one, right? But today we stood up these organizations that are providing mentorship and inspiration for young people. And I just look forward to the day where we can see the results that they are able to bring forward as a result of, dare I say, our efforts, building upon our shoulders, if you will.
Yeah, that's super, super hard to follow because I think that hits it right on the head, right? The reason that colleges and universities exist is to explore those boundaries, to generate new knowledge and to generate new, I think Nam's word enthusiasts is exactly the right thing, right? We want to excite people about the possibility of working in these careers and at the same time cross tie it to the really practical outcomes, right? I mean, how do we build campus resilience? We're already seeing the impacts of climate in this region, right? We designed the green roof on our Arlington building for the 300-year storm because we see the 100-year storm on a regular basis, right? We get heat waves that don't break. And all of these things have energy implications to them. So how do we prepare our students to go out and lead while simultaneously making sure that we can maintain sort of continuity of operations and safety and comfort for people who are on the campuses now and into the future? The public-private partnership for the Fuse is a 75-year agreement. So that building is going to be there for a long time. How do we make sure that it continues to inspire people into its fifth, sixth, seventh decade, right? And that's, I think, super, super important.
Certainly. And again, hard to follow you up on that, but in closing, as we've heard today, the Commonwealth and Virginia's colleges are not just advancing energy efficiency, which is why we're all here for a forum, but we're really, and these panelists and their teams are really redefining what it means to align research, operations, and, as all of us heard, community and students in particular around a shared climate and energy infrastructure mission. And I hope that the lessons shared here today point to a future where campuses don't just model sustainability or their collaborators, that we all model it and that we all accelerate it. So on that note, thank you so much, Jesse, Nam, and Greg for joining us today and sharing your insights. And I will be reaching out to each of you to have some tours. Thank you.
Hey, McKenna, actually, panels run until 2:45, so we have about 13 more minutes if folks would like to, if you would like to take a couple more questions.
Great, apologies, I got confused a little bit with the timing. But since we have a bit more time, I would say one of the things that we talked about or was mentioned earlier was the behavioral dimension component, wherein efficiency is not just about the technology present on the campus, but about how people use it. More so to ask about the human side of this work, what whether that's training or occupant engagement or just getting buy-in from leadership or staff, what has been the most, in your words, effective tool in building a shared sense of responsibility or accountability?
Threats, direct threats. I'm kidding. We work a lot with our demand response provider to understand what we can do voluntarily. We have tried to incentivize people to do the right things on our campus through all kinds of contests and savings and things like that. I don't think it's the money. I mean, we don't use generators for demand response. We do use thermal energy storage. We do use things like that. But primarily, we rely on people going through and turning things off because we explain to them that the grid is in dire need of action. And so understanding that we each have a shared responsibility to make sure we have basic outcomes like keep the lights of the hospital on motivates people to do that right thing. And that's how we consistently hit our targets, is by declaring what we call UVA Saves Hour and having people literally save for an hour. And then we threaten the hospital. Okay.
The one area that I have seen is in the mass transit. I would say, when I went to school here many, many moons ago, the preferred way to, if you live off campus, the preferred way to get to campus is, you drive in, right? But we have repositioned our mass transit so that it's more centrally located on campus. It has all the key stops, and in fact, I think 80% of the buses are electric buses. And so we've seen huge upticks in ridership for the mass transit. And again, that is a sacrifice on the part of students to, give up some of their liberties in driving and, taking a bus, which is not all that cool, if you will, but it's become cool because, again, they are more aware of the impact of, driving individual cars.
Yeah, I think our big wins in sort of behavior change really haven't been about energy at all. I mean, we've done really well in sort of circular economies and recapturing goods that students leave behind at move out. And sort of building a circular economy based on that, redistributing those goods to people who need them on our campuses and nearby. But I can tell you that the prodigious level of effort from our team that's been necessary to build that program it's been off the charts. I mean, we've got a brand new program manager managing that. We've hired wage folks. We see a huge number of volunteers, and I think it's been you know, relatively easy to build the come and get it phase, like the help us redistribute this phase. But the changing the behavior about not putting that in the dumpster in the first place, that's been really hard. We've had some good success, mostly by virtue of just like a lot of effort, a lot of outreach, a lot of education on that front. And we also lean in, our anything that gets dumpster towed here at Mason goes to a trash to energy plant in Lorton that has some fairly significant environmental justice outcomes that we're not super happy about. And so, we try and lean into that messaging. And I think there is that element of, people do see their sort of larger responsibility to their neighbors in the region. But machinery is easy. Engineering is easy. It's expensive, but it's easy. People are hard.
If we're going to talk about things that are fun, my favorite, to echo what Greg was saying, is we've set up a free food alert. So it's an app or a notification that tells people when we've got leftover food somewhere, and they just show up and get it. We recently had our 1000th free food alert go out. And so in celebration, we got a cake and we put out a free food alert, and people came and ate cake.
That's very fun. I love that. Since we have just a few more minutes left for questions, I wanted to touch on just the incredible leadership that all of your institutions do as it pertains to bridging operations and research, as we've talked about earlier. So each of your universities describe, in a sense, the campus as a living lab, or the work that you all do as living laboratories. What would you say is the biggest breakthrough or surprise or insight that hasn't been shared on this presentation that's come from applying research methods directly to campus operations?
My answer is a little tangential, but I
That's
would
okay.
say the publicity. Our press folks love to hear about when young people on grounds are actually working with us and making a difference. It inspires a new generation of students to come here and do just that. So we write articles all day long about our new geothermal energy plant, and the tagline becomes students helping out with geothermal energy.
Yeah, for me, I think and I've only been in my position at Virginia Tech for a little over 2 years, but for me, the biggest thing that I've learned is um, in the operational world, we are really poor at identifying grant opportunities, and we are really poor at grant writing. And so when we engage with the academic side, they are really good at that. And so that provides us with the opportunity to collaborate there as well. And because most of the time we're heads down trying to solve today's problem. And, these opportunities, they require so many steps of, concept paper, applications, and all of these forms and stuff that I'm just beyond me and my abilities on a day-to-day basis to address. And so I think a missed opportunity if you're don't engage with the faculties and get their expertise on that is grant opportunities.
Yeah, and I'll say, so we fund our Living Labs program, right? Our Institute for a Sustainable Earth is able to offer research funding. So we get, every year a dozen really serious sustainability grant proposals from teams of faculty and students on the campuses. I think the one thing that's blown me away is that I've been here 6 years. I don't really think I understand the depth and breadth of the academic programming here. And we see proposals for, wetland studies on the campus in places that I sort of knew existed, but like we have an academic program for that? Really? I've got one team this semester that's cooperating with our police department to fly a drone over an undeveloped region of the campus to look for changes in vegetation by mapping the different shades of green. The creativity and the breadth of what our research teams are up to is just it's so inspiring. It really is.
Oh, very interesting. And I know we're coming up to close, but one final question, I promise. As each of you look ahead, what do you hope future students or future staff inherit from the work that you and your teams are leading now, not just in terms of energy analysis or infrastructure, but more so in terms of mindset?
I'll lean in first because we talk about this a lot, right? I want particularly our students, but also our faculty, to see a university that's walking the walk, right? We have faculty in a variety of disciplines that touch on climate and resilience, and to see the research they're producing and their cooperation in the community where they're getting real results. I want them to see a physical campus where their work is respected, heard, and acted upon. And that will remain a motivation for me well into the future.
Yeah, I'll just add that, I'm lucky enough to have sustainability in my job title, but in the sense that every company is a tech company, I like people to understand that every job can be a sustainability job, right? From wherever you're at, you can lean in, to Greg's point, and make a difference.
And I think for me, I've been in the utility industry for 30 years now, and it has changed so much in the last 5 years. And I think the next 10 years are going to be just even more transformational. So I think the next generation of energy enthusiasts is in for a great ride, and I look forward to see their contribution.
I look forward to seeing all the contributions to come as well. And on that note, thank you for attending, and thank you for our wonderful panelists for presenting. And on that note, I'll hand it back to Chelsea. Oh, I guess it popped up now. See you all later.